Welcome to the Wild Hope Rising podcast. I'm your host, Sunny Cain, and I'm so glad you're here. I want to help you be wildly you. And believe it or not, you're already her. So I invite you to listen in. I'll help you move through the wilderness, no matter how you got here. So let's lean in, ignite your purpose, and discover what you're made of. Buckle up, my friend. It's time for Wild Hope. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited to be hanging out with you. It has been a crazy few weeks around here in our home. We are preparing. My daughter is about to graduate. And if you don't know any of her story, one day I'm going to have her on the podcast. And today's conversation, actually, she helped me create as I was thinking about all of you. The past few years, my daughter has wrestled with some health issues. And we're talking, this thing came in and just hijacked her normal and really left her unsettled. It took her from being a 5-day-a-week dancer to having massive health issues. We didn't know what was going on in her body. And that made high school really, really hard. And at one point, at her worst, we weren't quite sure if we were going to need to pull her out of school. So this moment of heading into graduation feels more monumental than I would say than it has for our other kids. I'm also very aware that it marks the end of a season. And that has me all sorts of feels in my head and my heart. And all of that has led me to, I'm going through, not only am I working, I'm doing the podcast, reaching out to women like you. And aren't we crazy as women? We just fill our lives with so much stuff. And then we are preparing for this party. We've been doing all of this yard work and making our yard space look beautiful. And isn't it so crazy how when we have company coming to our houses, there is nothing that motivates us more than to get that project done that we have been procrastinating. Well, our yard is one of those things. We have had this, I would say it's a lovely dirt pile where we could just see the vision behind our eyes that someday this large backyard was going to be filled with people, but mostly it was filled with mud. And so we've been working on that. So all of that to say, my mind has been a little bit distracted because when we've got lives that are full of busyness and we're running from thing to thing, and let's just be honest, if we're walking through perimenopause, I'm telling you the brain fog is like something fierce. I asked my husband the other day, should I be worried because of how forgetful I have been? And I always took pride in the fact that I could remember all of the details. I didn't even have to write them down. They were just in my head and I could remember things really easily. Well, not so much this past year. And I don't think it's just the distractions and the busyness in my life. I think it's also the perimenopause that I am walking in. And some of you who are listening know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that are our younger listeners, and I know there's some of you, I am so glad to see that we are reaching multiple generations through this. It is so beautiful. That's what Tammy and I want to see at the table. And when I say the table, I just mean Wild Hope Rising. Women who are different ages, who come from different backgrounds, who, have different lifestyles, who have different wilderness seasons, who walk through different challenging obstacles, who wrestle with different things. At the end of the day, I could go on and on and on. But while we are so different, we are so much the same. And we like to find the common ground, the things that we can personally relate to in each other's stories, rather than looking for things that can divide us. So thanks for our young chicks who are on this show as well. And you might not be able to relate to the perimenopause, but at the risk of sounding like everything that is out there right now, I just got to say I'm wrestling with the perimenopause brain fog. And that brings us to the start of our conversation today, because this week, in one of my weird brain fog days, I was busy doing projects in my house and I was in my pajamas. I was having a slow morning. It was one of those days I ended up having a change in my plans where my daughter didn't need a ride, and I had originally intended to go pick her up. So I thought, oh my goodness, I have all of this free time. I'm so excited. So I was just lounging. I was kind of spending time reading the Bible, and I was journaling because that's just what I do when I need soul rest. And I was thinking, bonus time, I'm getting rest. And suddenly, out of nowhere, I get a phone call from Tammy who says, hey friend, are you still coming? Immediately my heart drops and I realize I am supposed to be meeting her at the bank 5 minutes ago. Again, girls, I do not have my bra on. I am wearing sweatpants And let's just say the bags on my eyes look like, they could be in a handbag section. They are so big. And they are black. And usually I love wearing the color black because, it makes me look skinny. But, oh, goodness. Let me just say, the bags under my eyes were not flattering, and I had no makeup on. My hair looked crazy because the night before I took a shower and I was not up to drying it because it was too hot, and I was probably having a hot flash. So there I was in all of my glory, thinking I had rest, and then realizing I had an epic fail. Now, my immediate thought was, I look like such a flake. And I just felt awful because there Tammy was at the bank for this appointment that we made to open up the Wild Hope Rising bank account. And we were so excited about it, and I couldn't figure out how I had forgotten. So I began rushing around, putting my clothes on, trying to make myself presentable in this brain fog-induced state, feeling like a total schmuck. I get in my car, I drive to the bank, Tammy is still there. And in this very same state, I go to walk inside the bank. I park right next to Tammy's truck, and I go walking into this bank parking lot, and I'd never been to this particular bank before. And I realize as I'm walking that it's weird, I can't find the door. I kid you not, I cannot find the door. And so I go to walk, and I realize, guys, I have walked into the drive-thru. Like, I'm telling you, what is this crazy lady doing in the drive-thru of the bank? So I pull out my phone because I'm going to have to text Tammy. I'm thinking, how embarrassing to tell her I'm here, but I can't find the door. So before I text her, I've got it out. I'm ready to text her. I type the text. I can't find the door. How did you get inside? But I don't hit send. I think just to myself, maybe I should walk back the way I came and just see if by any chance the door was hiding. I walk back, and you guys, the door was not hiding. It was plain as day, a giant door, giant, that I had walked by into the drive-thru. So when I told you that I was like, should I be worried? This is why. How do you walk past the door with such level of distraction? And so now I'm thinking, as I find that door, as I am late, I feel awful for how I have made Tammy look, for wasting her time, for wasting the bank's time because I'm late. And now my thought is, now I look like a flake and a total idiot walking through the drive-thru. Like, hey, trying to get my steps in, just thought I would walk through the bank. Like, how you doing? You guys, I can't even begin to tell you how I felt in that moment. I walked in so deflated and out of sorts. And then we just got all of our stuff done. We got our bank account opened, which is actually exciting news for you guys. You know why? Because Tammy and I are preparing some things behind the scenes here that are real practical tools for you. Not only are we going to offer coaching and mentoring coming along one-on-one, and we already had a reach out about this. We are so excited. We've put some packages together. But more than that, what we really want to specialize in is putting groups together because we want women to see other women. And we're talking about groups online so we can gather from wherever we're at, gather together, walk through wilderness seasons, have our lives get ignited with purpose, and really press into being wildly you, to discover who we are and what we're truly made of. And so we've been putting all that together behind the scenes, and you got to do things like set up a bank account. So anyways, back to the bank. So there I am. I walk in, and this woman was kind as can be, and they were ready for me. And so, we filled out the paperwork, and I'm feeling like a bum the whole time. Just not great. Tammy was thinking nothing of it. She was now, mind you, Tammy looked beautiful. She had a business suit jacket on. She looked very professional. And I come in like, looking like the wind blew it in, only the wind didn't know how to land me except for in the drive-thru. I'm a little crazy. I'm totally nuts. And at the end of it, this isn't very relevant, but I feel like you need to know it. I got a free cup for signing up for an account. And I love it. It was like a Stanley, only it wasn't a Stanley, which I think is not generic. You know what I think it is? When it is a generic Stanley, it says, oh no, I'm not going to be like everybody else. I stand out. I'm not getting generic. I'm the cool one because I don't do Stanley. I do not fall for trends, but it looks like I fall for trends. Anyways, I get this hot pink Stanley looking mug for free. So I walk in with all of my crazy and all of that, and I get a blessing in the midst of that. Not what I was expecting in my feeling like a flake, feeling like an idiot kind of state, but I walked away with a blessing, and I realized in all of my fear of how I looked to other people and how I looked to this sweet gal at the bank, I just looked like a normal human being. But let me tell you, when I was in the drive-thru, getting ready to, in the drive-thru, I'm still laughing about that because I just wish I had a video of this, but while I'm in the drive-thru, I gotta tell you, there was a part of me that wanted to lie or to make an excuse, to justify, right? Like I had a bad morning, that's why this happened. And really what it was, I simply forgot. Now, I did not lie. I went in and I just owned it. I just said, I don't know what is going on. And I told them the story of me walking around to the drive-thru. And I was honest, I literally just forgot. I don't know how. And what I found was grace in that moment because we're human. But that pressure internally that I felt to maybe lie or make an excuse or make myself look better than what was actually at play, I think is very common. We've all been in these moments before where we're kind of worried about how we look to the people around us. It's the appearances, our need to appear a certain way, and this root of perfectionism that exists in us, this pressure for perfect. And I know you might say, okay, Sunny, sorry, but I am not a perfectionist. I am not one of those people. I do not feel like I need to have a flawless performance. I'm not striving for that. I don't have high standards of excellence for yourself or others. And I do. But maybe you go, nope, I don't relate to that at all. This is not an everybody issue. But follow me for a minute, because I would dare to say that the pressure for perfect, this hope dud, it actually impacts all of us, because see, perfection actually has layers. When I say layers, there is this pressure that manifests itself in our hyper focus on our appearance. Okay, now follow me for a second. We are in a social media driven world where we are seeing standards of perfection all the time. I mean, never mind the AI that is around right now, where people are editing out their flaws all the time, whether it be through a filter, whether it be through you are actually seeing an influencer who is a robot, I'm sorry, but like a robot, but an AI. There is perfection, an AI robot. What would you call them? I don't know, an AI created account where it is perfection. And so we're seeing this all the time. And you know what? You can just say for us women in general, there is this pressure for perfect that is really, it's driven by beauty industry. And the beauty industry ends up profiting off of our insecurity in our lack of perfection. It gets us absorbed in our appearance, in how it always needs to be better. We need to have flawless skin. We need to get rid of those bags that I was talking about. We need to have certain eyebrows, and it's not in to have these kind of eyebrows. You have to brush it up now. Then you have to fill it in with whatever. You have to have this kind of brow wax. You have to have that kind of. Now you need to have, clear your lymph system. And now you need to do the gua sha things across your face. And now you need to, if you're my age, you got to start shaving your face or plucking your hairs constantly. Or I use my husband's little shaver between here. I'm not very fancy. My hairdresser is dying right now if she's listening. But there is this standard, this pressure for perfection. And it is about our hair, our cellulite, how to get rid of it. And all of this beauty industry, they're here to help serve us. They just want to help us to be more perfect. How helpful are they? The right product, the right supplement, the right answer to all of your problems. And the beauty industry in general has really pressed this into women, and it's impacting all of us. My daughter and I were talking about this today when I said to her, I've been talking about hope duds. Do you have any ideas about the ones that I should tackle? And she brought up appearance. She's the one that gave me this topic. So here I am as my 44-year-old self and my daughter at her 18-year-old self. And we're both saying there is a pressure for perfect that exists in our world, and we fall for it all the time. And not only is perfection, like I said, it has many layers. So it's not only driven in our physical appearance. Oh, and don't even get me started, by the way, on diet culture. You cannot get online right now or go to the store without seeing something that is telling you how you can help your body make it better, how you can lose weight, how you can get rid of the cellulite, how you can start walking this many steps and do these many things. And I think the struggle with all of that, this is just a quick side note here, is that I have to tell you guys, when I was killing it in my health, I did feel better. I felt more creative. I felt more free. I didn't have as much overthinking in my life. I felt more vibrant and more capable to do the things before me. And that wasn't because of how I looked, it was because of how I felt. So I don't think we can fully dismiss that. But the standard of perfection is what I'm talking about here. That drive for I have to make my body a certain way so that I appear a certain way for others, so that I fit in to what is expected of me. My perfectly white teeth. I shouldn't show that I'm aging. I have to cover up my grays. I have to cover up my wrinkles. I have to, all of that. You know this, and it's exhausting, guys, and it's thrown in our face all the time. But if you're not a perfectionist, and maybe you are one of the women that somehow you have not had the standard of the beauty industry or the pressure for perfection in your physical appearance hit you, what about the drive for our appearances to others? How we look, how we live our lives, how that looks to others. Oh my goodness, we fall for this all the time in what we believe our lives should look like. We have this pressure for perfect in how we appear to other people. And this is beneath a different layer than your physical appearance. This was me walking through the drive-thru saying, I look like a flake. I look like an idiot. And that almost took me out of my integrity in causing me to lie because the pressure of perfect was present. And here's the crazy thing. We know that God doesn't look at external appearances. He looks at the heart. See, perfection, it's insidious. And we wouldn't ever say that we're putting our hope in our perfection. We wouldn't actually go there. I talked about this a few weeks ago in the big opinions of others, how that can be a driver, a hope dud, where we're worried about what other people think. And I think this perfection can be driven by that. But it's sort of that whole emphasis on a different syllable, okay? So yes, it's about other people, but this is about our quest for perfection. I will be okay if I look okay, if my body feels a certain way, if other people believe this about me. See, perfection whispers to us that who we are right now is not enough, that we're not sufficient. And perfection constantly moves the goalpost and it dangles the carrot. Do more, be more, fix more. And perfection isolates. I mean, it really does. If you think about this, I can't tell you how many times I've heard a story of a woman who didn't feel like she had the right outfit, so she said no to going to the party. Or she didn't feel like her body looked the right way, so she said no to swimming. Or look at the woman who is walking through grief or walking through difficulty. She begins to isolate because of how she looks to the world. She believe that who she is right now is not enough. She doesn't have enough to offer the world, so she isolates. That is that hope dud of the pressure for perfection. And perfection actually paralyzes progress in our lives. Because not only do we get into overthinking, and overthinking is not just a ton of thought bubbles in your head, it is the quest for I must do this right. I have to be perfect. So we overthink and we look for more strategies and more solutions, and it's exhausting. And as Tammy and I have been building Wild Hope Rising, because we know our propensity to sometimes fall for this form of perfection, this perfection that paralyzes progress, we use this little catchphrase with each other. Done is better than perfect. And it has really worked for us because in that quest for perfect, doing it right, how do we do social media? What are the best messages to bring to women? It's really easy to stick into comparison, into doing it perfect, into doing what all of the people say of how you're going to trick the algorithm on, and how to make people listen to your podcast, yada, yada, yada. You can get into overthinking, but we said done is better than perfect. And if I'm really honest with you, and I told this to Tammy, I would rather have done perfect than done is better than perfect. In fact, a few weeks ago, I was listening to one of our podcasts. It came out, it got released from Apple. I listened back, and I should have listened before because our little intro song wasn't on it. And I just felt so stupid, so small. And why is something like that dictating my worth? I'm a brand new podcaster. Of course, I missed a mark there. But done is better than perfect. And that has helped us from being paralyzed by perfection because perfection paralyzes progress. And rather than bringing peace, which we're all trying to earn, peace and hope, perfection fuels hurry in our lives. It drives us into motion, taking action out of panic and not purpose. Be the perfect wife, the perfect mom, the perfect Christian, the perfect friend, the perfect leader, and do it right now. We end up with overflowing calendars so that we can hold up the badge of busy. I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy for our appearances, and perfection steals our rest, it steals joy, and it leads to artificial lives. And then my daughter said this today, and it was such a mic drop. I wish she was just here on the podcast with me today, and I'll bring her on at a later time because she's got a story she wants to share with you. But my daughter said that the pressure for perfect, it makes us selfish. And she said it's because we're not fully present because we're thinking about our appearance. Or take it deeper, and someone compliments us, and we don't believe them, and we don't recognize kindness because we're absorbed with our own quest for our appearance, of how we think we should look, measured up against the standards that we see out there. And even deeper, she said, the quest for perfection makes it hard to receive love. Guys, it's a dud. Because we have to ask ourselves, what is the standard? Like, how will we know when we have arrived at the finish line of perfection? Who has decided what that looks like? Well, in our world that is getting weirder by the moment with all of the AI, and don't get me wrong, some of it is really awesome, but maybe the standard for perfection is being a robot. Right? And the thing about robots is I bet with all of our amazing skills, we can make them look very pretty. These AI kind of robots that you see online that are influencers, they're not real people, they look very pretty. The problem is they have no soul. There is no beauty that radiates from within. I ask you, what is the standard? And what is perfect? We know that God says that He is perfect, but what is the standard? And this has been a problem since the beginning of time, even back in Aristotle's time. We're talking ancient Greece. Perfection had layers, he noticed as well, and he defined perfection as three things: something that's complete and has all of its parts, or something so good that it couldn't be better. It just couldn't be because it's so perfect. And another one that he said was perfection is also something that's totally fulfilled its purpose. And that one really got me thinking. We get caught up in those other two definitions. Something that is, I'm so complete and I have all my parts, I've got it all together. Or something so good it couldn't be better. Like we're just trying to achieve this finish line of perfection and be awesome. But what about that third one? Something that's totally fulfilled its purpose. And I don't know about you, but at the end of my life, When I am beginning to step into eternity with Jesus, not only do I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. And maybe for you, you're not a Christ follower. You're like, boy, she has a lot of God talk on there. And that's just because I got to tell you, I can't be silent about something that has changed my life so dramatically. I am a girl who has walked through so much. And someday, if we can have coffee, sometime through this podcast, I may tell you glimpses of that story. But I've been through so much. And he has redeemed me literally from the pit of hell itself. He has brought me out of evil. He has brought me through every kind of abuse. And so I talk about him. That's me bringing my whole self to the table. And you're invited to bring your whole self too. I'm not here to convince you of anything, but I am here to shine, to overflow with the hope that I have found that this world, this pressure for perfect can never deliver. So I'm going to talk about Jesus. And if that makes you uncomfortable, my prayer is, would you just find the common ground, the things that we can stand on, that cause our hearts to connect? This pressure for perfect, these standards from the beauty industry, this desire to keep up with appearances in the world. We all wrestle with that. So stick to the common ground and let's not look for the things that necessarily divide us. And I want you to be you, and I want the freedom to be me. And me saying this, friend, is not because I am coming in with apology. Christians that are listening to me with this little rant might feel like I'm apologizing. But let me tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep a table that is safe. And I hope you practice this kind of table in your house, because too often we fill our tables with people who look just like us, think just like us, act just like us. And then we throw them into cancel culture when they offer something that we are not expecting or something that we are uncomfortable with. And we can learn from one another. God has created people in his image. And so when they sit at our table, we want them to show up in the fullness of who they are so we can see the beautiful facets of him in them. And if we're too busy getting afraid of what somebody else brings to the table, or somebody who doesn't think like that, we miss out on the beauty that is right before us. And this is a true kind of beauty. This is a true kind of beauty that cannot be manufactured, that is not about perfection, that is not about beauty that we have earned, it's about being. And that's the kind of table that we are creating here. And that's why I take random moments to rant like this, because I want you to stay at the table. And I want you to feel fully invited to this table as you are. And I want to come exactly as I am. But let's talk about that third layer of Aristotle talking about perfection, that it's something that has totally fulfilled its purpose. Because at the end of my life, I want to know that I fulfilled my purpose in this world, that that's what I did, what I was created for, that I walked in, that I owned it, that I stewarded it well. And wow, that I fulfilled my purpose. And I believe that purpose is found in our Creator. Right? The one who created us, the one who created good works for us in advance for us to do. The beginning of that is, for we are God's masterpiece. And you know what, friend? We did not make ourselves a masterpiece. That's the quest for perfection. You are chasing something that trying to be a masterpiece when you are already a masterpiece. And I'm not telling you you're perfect, but you are perfectly designed by a God who looked at you when he was finished, created you, and said, it is good. It is good. But then he didn't stop there. He didn't create you to be some beautiful vase or china that is up on a shelf just to show your external appearances off. And so when we chase external appearances, we're missing the point. We're not fulfilling purpose. In order to have purpose, we look to the one who is perfect. That is God. And God who created us, you know what? He gave us purpose, good works that he prepared for us in advance so that we might do them. That is fulfilling our purpose. And I want to ask you a question. Friends, what if we began to dump our quest for perfection and settled for being women content with being perfected by God, ignited by purpose rather than pressure? Now, I know this is easier said than done, and what I'm talking about is a mind shift here, something that you and I have to be intentional about. We're not just going to hear a podcast, get off this, and go, that's right, I no longer, I don't go for that perfection stuff. I am being perfected by God. I wish it was that easy. But this is a mind shift where we take captive every thought. When you begin to feel that pressure to be perfect, when you notice it in your life, when you're walking through a drive-through at a bank and you're like feeling, I'm an idiot, I'm a flake, that self-talk and that desire to lie about it in order to have a better image, in that moment I can take that thought captive. Sonny, I'm not a flake. I am not an idiot. I'm a human being and I simply forgot. I am going to, instead of that quest for perfection, this pressure for perfect right now, I'm going to take a deep breath. And I'm going to know that I was created on purpose and that this little shortcoming of mine in this moment doesn't make or break me. It doesn't define me. It just is what it is. And instead, I am just going to be thankful that I am being perfected each day. I am entering into a process of growth because I know in life we always do the best we can. And when we know better, we do better. And let's just embrace that. This is a life of being perfected until the day we stand before God and having our lives ignited by purpose rather than that pressure. So I want to take a minute and invite you into something that is found in the book of Matthew chapter 6, verses 28 through 33. And Jesus is speaking about this hope dud of the pressure for perfection and our quest for appearances. And I want you to hear what he has to say. He says, has anyone by fussing in front of the mirror ever gotten taller by so much as an inch? All this time and money wasted on fashion, do you think it makes that much difference? Instead of looking at the fashions, walk out into the fields and look at the wildflowers. They never primp or shop, but have you ever seen color and design quite like it? The 10 best-dressed men and women in the country look shabby alongside them. And he goes on, he says, if God gives such attention to the appearance of wildflowers, most of which are never even seen, don't you think he'll attend to you, take pride in you, do his best for you? What I'm trying to do here is to get you to relax, to not be so preoccupied with getting so you can respond to God's giving. People who don't know God and the way he works, they fuss over these things. But you know both God and how he works. Steep your life in God reality, God initiative, God provisions. Don't worry about missing out. You'll find all your everyday human concerns will be met. And I just thought that was so beautiful, the imagery of the wildflower. And I can see this right now in my backyard. Now, they're not actual wildflowers, they're just flowers, but I'm calling them wildflowers because it's wild that I planted them, okay? Because I'm not a gardener, okay? But as we've been getting ready for my daughter's graduation party, we're trying to have some beauty in that old dirt pile in the back. And so I've been planting them. And so we have some kind of barrels that are filled that we have planted. And I got just a bunch of different colors like purple and orange and pink and yellow. And they're just all over and they're beautiful. And I got plant food. Don't worry. I tried to fertilize it and I've been watering it every day. But I also, on my shed window here, right outside where I record, I found this cute little thing at Marshall's. And can we just say thank you, Marshall's, for having Martha Stewart stuff? Because I felt like Martha Stewart that day. I walked in there and I grabbed this basket of flowers that looked so pretty and it was made for a window. And I nailed it into the wall and I hung it up out there. And it looks like there are wildflowers outside my window. And what was so funny is I saw a bee sitting on it the other day and I laughed. And then I immediately thought, oh, that's what we do with hope duds. We try to get sustenance from things that are artificial, right? That bee is not going to get anything from those flowers. They're not wildflowers. They're not doing anything. They're just fake, sitting there. And these hope duds that we have been talking about, having a conversation with over the past few weeks, and if you've not listened to those, please go back and do, and see how this is showing up in your life, and share it with other women. Get this message out there. Let's quit falling for it, and let's encourage each other to lean into something fresh and new, a place where let's stop settling for the faucet when we could have the fountain. Stop settling for a small drip when we could have endless supply in him. So these wildflowers, so I've got both the artificial in my backyard and I have the beauty of the flowers that I've created and they're still living, by the way. But those ones in my window, they don't grow, they don't breathe, and they don't feed a thing. What if our lives were more like those wildflowers? Not merely for beauty and appearances like the ones in my window, not curated or polished to be perfect. But what if we were rooted, radiant, ignited, alive with purpose? Because see, wildflowers aren't just pretty, they're essential. They are powerhouses of provision. I did a little research for you. I just used Google, so go out to Google and you can find this out too. But wildflowers feed bees and butterflies. They are pollinators, and pollinators equals more crops, because pollinators are responsible for fertilizing about 60 to 80% of all flowering plant species, including, listen to this, many of the fruits, vegetables, and nuts that you and I eat, things like apples and berries and almonds and tomatoes. So without wildflowers, pollinators struggle. Without pollinators, crops fail. And when I can't have blueberries for breakfast, I'm angry. The wildflowers matter, people. They stabilize the soil. They support life all around them. And not only that, but they are a healing presence for people too. There is science backing this, because beyond agriculture, wildflowers have been shown to boost mental health. In an area of agriculture, they actually reduce stress and support human well-being. Listen, wildflowers are essential. They are powerhouses of provision. More wildflowers, more pollinators equals better crops, equals healthier soil, stronger food supply, thriving people and planet. And they don't strive, they grow. They bloom exactly where they've been planted. I mean, it is crazy. I put these flowers in barrels, and the next day, the pink ones didn't decide that they liked the purple bucket better and try to jump over to them, dying because they uproot themselves in order to get over there. They didn't feel the need to jump across the yard because that one over there looked more glorious and was getting more attention. That was the standard. They're growing. They're taking the food, they're taking the nourishment of the water, and they're just doing their wildflower thing. And it got me thinking, ladies, let's be wild, for we are God's masterpiece. We already are. All this quest for being flawless, goodness sakes, look at who you already are. And just stay in the barrel you've been planted in. Stay in your own lane. Be majestic in and of yourself, of who you are. Radiate with overflowing hope that comes from the inside. Be rooted. And you know what? Scripture tells us that we are rooted and established in love. We don't got to chase love in our quest for perfection. We don't have to earn love. We already have it. We're rooted in it. Let our roots grow down deep. And when we put our trust in God and we stop settling for the faucet, these hope duds, this pressure for perfect, and we instead go to the fountain of hope, we are filled with uncontainable joy. The joy that the pressure for perfection steals from us. And we are given perfect peace, the peace that perfection steals from us. And then our lives will overflow with the radiant hope that God has planted within. So maybe the invitation isn't to chase perfection and beauty, but maybe it's to just live beautifully, to grow where we are planted, to let go of the artificial hustle, the hurry, and to live with purpose, nourishing the world around us. My friend, your life has purpose. Who you are is beautiful, and I don't even have to see your face to know that truth. I want to encourage you this weekend to go to a place where you can, first of all, I want you to go and see the wildflowers. Go look, even if they're in your neighbor's garden. And I want you to take a little bit of time to notice the details of the flower. See the beauty. See the rest. See the way that they are just glorious in and of themselves. See that they are unique. And then I want you to go into a Starbucks, a public place. Look around. I want you to see the beauty in people. Look for it. Not what irritates you, not how they do not measure up, because see this pressure for perfect. If you are putting it on yourself, you are projecting it onto the world around you. Even if you don't know it, you are projecting it into your homes. You are projecting it on your marriages. You are projecting it onto your workplace and onto your children. And that is a pressure that people were not created for. And I don't think, if you're here and you want Wild Hope to rise, I actually don't think you're the kind of person that wants to produce pressure on people to be perfect. And so I want you to go into an environment and look at people and notice the beauty. Notice the differences. Notice the way that their eyes look, the way their smile is. Slow down. This is an invitation for presence. No hustling past people. You are just there to observe. No phone in your hand so that you are distracted. I want you to be present with what you see and contrast it with the beauty of the wildflowers, because people behold the image of God, the glory of God. And let's be people who say, no more quest for perfection. I will be ignited with purpose. I'm going to be fully present, able to receive love when people give it to me, because I know that I am already enough, because I belong to God and He prepared good works for me, which means I have purpose. And you know what? You don't have to fall for the lie that you got to search for purpose everywhere. Oh, what's my purpose? I don't know what to do with my life. Stop it. Stop it. You have purpose. You get to choose to live on purpose. That is a decision, something we step in and walk in, not something that we have to hunt and find. Now, God will reveal it as He is perfecting you. He will show you new doors to walk through. But at the end of the day, we choose to say, I will be ignited by purpose. I will live like I have something to offer, because dang it, I'm a wilderness woman. I am the girl who decided I'm going to expand my wild. I'm going to step into the wide open, spacious life, blowing in the wind. I'm not going to try to get into somebody else's barrel of flowers. Oh no, I am going to radiate with the hope that I already have and the beauty that I already have, because I have been created and there is still breath in my lungs. My friend, do you want to be perfect? Let's step into purpose instead. That's the greatest layer for us to focus on. And with that, I hope you have an amazing week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again next Tuesday. My prayer is freedom will become your story and redemption your song. Now it's time to take hope-filled action. And if today's episode spoke to you, please don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share, and help us grow this community. Thanks for listening to Wild Hope Rising. Until next time, keep stepping boldly into the spacious life you were created for.